Most of you know my name is Alan Earls. Thank all of you, all the dozens of people that came out today for coming out. What can I say? Nobody reads the Observer. I'm hoping we can do something a little different. I suffered through a couple of debates when I was a candidate a few years back, and I felt like I wasn't really able to express who I was to the audience. So hopefully this format will be a little more open. If anyone thinks we're doing anything that isn't fair, scream, because I don't want anybody to feel anything is unfair. My co-moderator, Jeff Livingstone, is on the far end. He's chair of the Conservation Commission, is engaged in lots of other things, and I like to think Jeff is even more fair-minded than I am. So between the two of us, we'll really try hard to make it a good thing. At least two people need to leave early because of the Davis Thayer Reuse Committee, namely Chris Stickney, who's running for planning board, and Patrick Sheridan from town council. So I'll probably ask them to go first and just say a little bit about what they want to do. Did you want to add anything to this intro, Jeff?
No, that's fine.
Okay. And give them several minutes to just talk about who they are, what they want to do on the town council or planning board respectively, and then maybe we can go down the row and introduce everybody briefly, and then just talk about some of the issues that the town faces. So everybody's going to talk into the magic microphone, and I'm going to stand back. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Patrick Sheridan. I lived in Franklin since 2008. I've been on the town council for 2 years now, and I would like to keep the town moving forward. We've bought a lot of open space. We addressed the housing issue, but we still can make more progress in those areas. And also, I'd like to see the budget addressed to help all the apartments in this town.
Thank you. Frank. And Chris, maybe you can tell us a bit about your hopes and expectations for planning board.
Thank you, Alan. Chris Stickney, live over by the Common here in town. I've been in town since 2015. I've been on the zoning board for the past 4 or 5 years or so, and also on the Davis Thayer Reuse Committee. One of the things that I'm hoping to do on the planning board is just continue to observe and monitor growth in the town in a smart and constructive way. I did an interview with Frank a couple weeks ago, and during that interview I expressed we can't make everyone happy all the time, but we can do our best in each individual instance to make sure that it's fitting not only the immediate locus, but also the larger benefit to the town overall, and ensuring that we're providing sufficient services, but also having housing and retail and other facets of our needs within the town met. So that's my vision and hope for the planning board.
Okay. Thank you. Why don't we just go from audience right to left, starting with Chuck Bailey, who's running for town council for the first time, I believe.
Sorry, I have to stand up. I can't talk Italian through marriage. But I'm Chuck Bailey. I'm a graduate of Tri-County. I went into the military. There I was on active duty for 6 years. Anna Maria and I were married, my wife, and we came home. We bought our first home here in Franklin in 1993. I became a paramedic. I served on the Franklin Fire Department. I retired in 2019. I have a degree from Dean College, a bachelor's degree in psychology. After retiring, I went back to work as a paramedic during the pandemic, and I am now teaching as a paramedic instructor. It's my goal to go to the town council, become a council member, a member of 9, and bring some fresh ideas, some fresh insight, and to excuse me, and to be the voice for the people here in Franklin, to advocate for them best I can. So that's about all I have at this time.
Thank you very much. And Alan, thank you so much just for this opportunity. I'll kind of keep it going with standing up. Dave Callahan, running for re-election at school committee. And so my wife and I moved to Franklin in 2010 when we were looking to start a family. Kind of flash forward 13 years, we got our oldest daughters over in middle school, and my little guy is in first grade. And he wants me to say proudly riding a bike without training wheels as well. And so over the past 2 years, as I served on the school committee, I've been the chairman of the policy subcommittee, and I get to serve with my colleague over here, Mr. McNeil, on the budget subcommittee, and with just about half the individuals here on the joint budget subcommittee, composed of school committee, town council, and FinCom as well. I'm a proud alum from Framingham State College at the time, now university, where I got my master's in public administration. And hopefully I'll be able to kind of continue the work that I've already done over these past 2 years as school committee and continue moving forward as Franklin, I'm sure we'll get into steal anyone's thunder, but there's a lot of issues, especially around the budget, facing Franklin over the next number of years. And hopefully I'll be able to kind of provide a steady hand as we kind of navigate some of those waters.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us here. Thank you, Alan, and thank you, Jeff, for hosting us. My name is Dave McNeil. A little bit about myself. I grew up here in Franklin, graduated Franklin High in 2009, and I returned in 2017. And was looking for a job at the time, and was very fortunate to get a job at the State House, and I've been there for about 5 years. And it's been an excellent opportunity for me to gain insight into both state and local government and policy in a number of different areas. And and having that opportunity to do that at the state level really got me wanting to do that at the local level as well. So I'm finishing up my first term here on the school committee. It's been an excellent experience for me, as Dave mentioned. It's been wonderful serving with him on both policy and budget and the overall committee with the work that we've been doing, and I would like to continue to build off of that. I want to see ways that we can continue to improve the educational experience for all Franklin students, see what ways that we can improve on the curricula, see which services that we can continue to provide for our student needs with special education, with new social emotional supports, with new learning opportunities, to understand what are the places that we can always improve upon, and particularly how can we continue to provide high quality services and educational experiences given the fiscal situation and that we're going to be facing over the next few years. So I'd like to continue to apply the experience I've gained over these past couple of years moving forward, and as well as my perspective as growing up here in Franklin as a former Franklin student. So thank you for coming out this evening.
Thanks, Dave.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. I appreciate that. My name is Brian Chandler. I'm running for my third term for the Franklin Town Council. I am a retired Franklin police officer, where I spent my whole time serving the residents here in Franklin. I've been married to my wife, Kate, for over 30 years. I have 3 children, all went through the Franklin Public Schools. My son, Sam, is an Army veteran, and I was lucky enough to start myself in Franklin with the Home Opportunity Program, affordable housing, when I had a wife and a baby. And to this day now, 30 years later, it's become even worse for the kids of Franklin to stay here. So I hope we continue working on some of the affordable housing issues. And number one is the budget. Everyone in here understands money. And it's going to be even harder next year now that all the COVID funds are gone and we've spent everything we have. So there's going to be a lot of work to do, and I know we're going to work very well with the school committee and with the finance committee. So I just would ask you for your vote on November 7th. Thank you.
I'm going to stand up too.
I know.
Never get to stand up. I love this. Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Alan and Jeff, for hosting, and I'd like to thank all my all the other candidates here for joining us tonight. I think it's really important for all of us to come out and meet each other, and I'd like to see new people. So it's really fun. I moved to Franklin in 2010. I spent over 30 years in research science. After a while, I thought, well, you know what, I want to stay in Franklin full time, so we bought the Franklin Agway. And in 2016. So in 2017, I ran for my first term, I was elected, and so this will be, I'm running for my 4th term. And one of the things I hope everybody takes home is that working for your municipality is really exciting, that you get to affect people's lives, day-to-day lives, really quickly, more so than the state of the federal government. And I've actually enjoyed it so much that I just got a new job working for the town of Holliston in their economic development group there. So I'm very excited about that. I've taken my new passion, which is municipal government, and got it and made it into a new job. So that's really exciting for me. I hope everybody thinks it is too. And you know, I'm on the chair of the Economic Development Subcommittee. I've worked on the chair of the steering committee for the Franklin for All project, which we've started to change some of the zoning so that we can actually see the things that we want to see be built here in Franklin actually can be built. And so that's really important to me. I'm on the budget subcommittee with these fine people and the joint budget subcommittee. I'm also on the master plan committee and a couple of the subcommittees there. The master plan is really exciting for me because we can think about Franklin from 10 years from now. What do we want it to look like? And that's what I want to continue to work on. Thanks.
Thanks, Mel. My name is Ruth Ann O'Sullivan. I am running for school committee, and I appreciate everybody coming out. I think, you know, civic engagement is such a critical thing for a town, especially one as big as ours. So kudos to people taking an interest in engaging. So I didn't expect to be up here. I was sort of watching school committee meetings. I grew up in Natick, went to UMass Amherst Business School. Right out of college, I moved to New York City. There was an opportunity. A West Coast bank, Golden West Financial, was trying to expand into the East. So I moved out there and I built a pretty solid career. And then when it was time to start a family, my husband, Bill, is here with me, and he and I moved. We were coming back to Massachusetts, and I knew of Franklin pretty well. A lot of my friends who I grew up with in Natick, you might have noticed there's a lot of Natick Franklin transfers back and forth. So had a good group out here, and just right 2019 we moved, and I had been watching the meetings right around COVID time in March when our former school committee chair, Dr. Bergen, was out on the football field. We were doing a town council meeting outside because of the, not knowing what the future held. And just heard a lot that I didn't expect about the stress of the schools and the budget and the fiscal cliff. And I don't think I've, forgive my husband, Billy, because I don't think I've missed a town council or school committee meeting since. So I sort of was lobbied by some peers to just, you're doing it anyway, you might as well just be on the school committee. So just to kind of dig in a little deeper to the budget concern. I was the chief of staff at a law firm in Wellesley when the pandemic hit, and when the schools didn't open up in September, I left that career and ended up with a pod of kids in my house. I have a good friend who's a nurse, another good friend who's a Boston police officer. So I had, at the time, a kindergartner, a second grader, 2 third graders, and a 4th grader at my house every day. So, watching our town council meetings was actually very exciting for me. So, and our school committee meetings. So, yeah, I'm a bit of a civics nerd. Who knew? So that's my Franklin story, and I would appreciate a vote, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Sorry. Yeah, thanks very much. Because we're doing this a little differently, I'm going to suggest we open up to the audience and see what kind of questions come there. Most of us who watch this stuff all the time have a short list of things we all have to worry about. I know you guys mentioned most of them already, but maybe getting the audience engaged would be a good thing. If anyone would like to ask a question of any or all of the candidates. Any takers out there? I think Joel was up a millisecond before you, so I'm going to give it to him and then we'll pass it to you, Frank.
Thank you, Alan. Welcome, all of you. Appreciate you taking the time to volunteer here in Franklin. I know what it's like. I did it for 10 years on the Franklin Council in the 90s, and I appreciate your interest. My question, my name's Dorico, Joel Dorico from Franklin. I've always lived here, and I enjoy it, like you do. My question is to the school committee candidates, and I'd like to know your thoughts and how you feel about the MCAS exam. And I'd like you to also expand on why the Massachusetts Teachers Union is against it. If you can answer that question, those, I mean.
Policy
Anybody want to tackle that? All right, you're a brave man.
Well, Joel, thank you for the question. I appreciate that. Yeah, so I know, this is a topic that right on Beacon Hill is getting some consideration, and I'm sure you're aware there's a decent chance it'll be on a ballot question next year before the public. So I guess my personal opinion on MCAS, I would say I think it is important to have metrics. It is important to have an understanding of how well a school and a school system is performing. And whether that be a standardized test or better ways to understand different grades and more standardized ways to compare those across schools and school systems, I think that is important to understand how students are performing in a particular school or school system. And the most important reason for that ultimately is to understand how well, how well is a school system serving the students? Because ultimately that's what we're here to do. That's why we're all here on the school committee. That's what teachers go into their profession to do, is they want to serve students, and they want to make sure that they're getting the best possible education in the classroom. So no matter what, I do believe it is important to have some metric. From what I understand and have heard, and I will be the first to admit I'm not an expert on the topic, from what I understand, complaints and reason that MCAS are being examined and reevaluated in terms of whether or not we want to have them is that they may not be an accurate measure of grades or performance per se, more a measure of whether or not someone is good at taking tests, or whether or not a particular community or family has the resources to, say, get to test preparation and be able to pay a tutor to understand how to better take a test than other communities or other families who may not have the same means. So, from what I understand, there's a concern about that in terms of what is it actually measuring? Is it measuring performance and quality of education, or is it measuring more socioeconomic factors? And I think that's a worthy question to ask, because ultimately, as I said, we want to make sure that the educational experience of Franklin Public School System, but really any school or any school system, is serving the students. We want to make sure that the data and metrics that we're having are an accurate reflection of that. And I'm not a teacher, so I can't speak on behalf of the MTA, and I haven't delved into their exact objections for it, but I assume, and from the little bit that I know, that their objections are along those lines as to whether or not it's an accurate measure of that. And so that's I would say that's my perspective on the issue. Absolutely.
I saw your head nodding. Is that a sufficient response? Are you pretty much on board with the same position?
A lot of agreement. I know.
You don't have to necessarily say it, but I want to make sure.
Absolutely. Because there definitely is importance of kind of being able to have some of those stats and the data. I know just over the weekend, Franklin released all of the MCAS scores for all the students. And, just to be able to kind of look and say, all right, here's, where the state average was, here's where the district is, and here's, where your kiddo is as well. And what was nice too with the, for families who might not have school-age children now, kind of shows, I think it's the last like 3 years, so kind of give a little bit historical data. So just as a parent, you can kind of see the growth and the achievement. So it is helpful, to kind of have some of those numbers. And also, we're going to have, for whomever makes up the school committee, in the next term, we'll have the central office kind of come in and present the MCAS findings to us, because they, by being a data point, it does help to make some, really what's going to become a budgetary decision about, in what direction do we need to move in based on where the numbers are at. But really do agree with my colleague too, in terms of a lot of the, in terms of the anti-MCAS ones, kind of where it's coming from. But it certainly has its value, and how we can kind of really make sure that that value shines through across all communities will be, is something that, the state itself just needs to be looking forward to.
Ruth Ann, did you want to add anything to that, or are we good?
We're good.
Okay. Frank, did you have another question? Since you're the next person with a hand up.
To the incumbent school committee members, when you consider all of the cost of adult education, does adult education run a deficit? And if so, how much? Or does it run a surplus? And if so, how much?
Any takers? I have no idea.
One thing what I can say,
I can't hear. Can you speak up a little?
yeah, absolutely, has this. Any dollar that we're spending in education, a dollar, spent well, is, from a community perspective, a civics perspective, it's a surplus. And this is something too, we even kind of saw, just at our last school committee meeting, we had the principal of the ECDC, the pre-K school, brand new principal coming in and talking about a lot of, he provided a school improvement plan, not to get too into the weeds. But ultimately, one of the things that he said, which was, I found so fascinating, was talking about, even at the littlest age, a lot of the programs that they have and a lot of the work that they do over there at the early elementary, the ECDC center, has such long-term gains. One of the things where they were talking about was just for a student who requires additional services or special services, being able to just to kind of regulate their own emotions and be able to kind of continue to stay in the classroom. And the benefit to doing that is that as they continue, as that child just continues to grow and becomes, elementary, in the middle school, in the high school, and then just an adult, the value that they're able to learn at that young age eliminates so many other behavioral issues, so many other issues that are out there. So I know it's a...
I thought it was a simple question.
Well...
Is adult education program, adult, when they have the evening, right?
So typically a lot of...
Does it run a surplus or a deficit, and if so, how much?
So I think a lot of those programs are done through the lifelong learning program. It's certainly something I can kind of reach out to that department if you wish, but it runs a little sub-separate than a lot of the 10 schools that we have within our budget.
Yeah, so there are fees for the lifelong learning courses, and that they do go into a revolving account, which in turn does go into the budget and offset certain costs. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head if it breaks exactly even, because not all the resources are exactly aligned in a particular item, because some things are more technology, some things are for the positions that actually teach them. So I would have to check to see if it does exactly break even or run a surplus, what the numbers are for that, but there are fees associated with the courses, and those do offset some parts of the budget, and because from the respective revolving account.
Other questions? I'm going to throw in one, not picking on you, Ruth Ann, I promise, but you have an initiative, I guess, One Franklin, and I think people may have used that phrase before, and it's a good one, but when I hear One Franklin, I always think there are probably at least two Franklins. I know a lot of people, I'm not sure which category I go into, that are, budgetarily challenged pretty regularly, and it's not One Franklin's. People have different perspectives on spending. So my question for any of the candidates that have anything to do with any budget issue is, how do you ensure that people who are here have the ability to stay and not just get priced out, which is, I think, an ongoing concern. And it happens everywhere. It's not just a Franklin problem. I think we understand that, places get redeveloped, demographics change, but there's also some value to the community to keeping a degree of continuity and not just giving everybody the boot at a certain point. So anybody that feels like tackling that, I'd welcome a comment. Thanks, Patrick.
Go ahead, you want to go your turn?
More housing, make the more housing, make it cheaper. And that's what we've been working on. Good night.
Back right before the budget hearings began in May, I think it was March, I had been, since I saw Dr. Bergen on the field in 2019 and have been watching the schools every May get up and just plead for the budget needs to be met. I've been pretty involved, and I've been meeting with Jamie Helen, I've been meeting with town councilors, I've gotten to know most of them pretty well, and it sort of came down to, we haven't had an override, a real operational override in 15 years, and without the community calling for one, it's not a thing that the town council is going to initiate. It's nothing that can be initiated without a grassroots organization. So I went and started One Franklin, or reignited, I should say, because originally Roberta Trahan, who's a local advocate for celebrities for schools in the town, and Dr. Bergen had got very involved in this One Franklin, and then it had sort of fizzled out because we got some money from the federal COVID relief. So all those teachers that were on 140 with pink slips in their hand that year, all of that kind of got, kind of quelled. It sort of calmed down. And this year we were right back there again, and we've been talking about how we're headed there. So, so I organized this committee. I'm the chair of that committee. I'm also, I have a gentleman, Ken Ajuku, who is the treasurer. And it's been very in its infancy stage, just advocating, trying to get even the discussion brought up. So our committee is officially here to help develop an override proposal. However, we don't expect, and I'm just speaking as a One Franklin chair, we don't expect the community to just say, yeah, of course, let's get on board with this. We know it's going to be a process, and it's going to be a lot of education. So it's another reason why I'm coming onto school committee, is because I think we need to just reassure the community that there is no waste. And my personal point of view is that I haven't been able to find waste in being sort of an outsider looking in as best I can. So I hope that kind of answers.
Thank you. Oh, you want to add something? Sure. And I'm also thinking if candidates want to ask each other questions, that could be really interesting, or just opinionate. But I'm sure you can do that.
I could ask questions. Thank you, Ruth Ann, for that explanation. I think the other thing, being on the budget subcommittee for the town council and the joint budget subcommittee, we had what we thought was going to happen for the next 5 years discussion with Dave and Brian. And Jamie Helen gave us what he thought was what we were gonna look at for the next 5 years. And when we get past 2026, we're looking at millions of dollars every year in deficit if we don't improve our revenue. So by the end of 2027, we could be cumulatively probably $10 million behind or in the hole, and that's a lot of cuts, right? So that's every year $2 to $3 million. We have to decide, do we want to cut things or do we want to fully fund them? And so that's one of the things that we have to discuss, like what do we want to do? I think it's not a simple thing, right? I mean, there's an override and there's new growth that we should be working on, and I think it's going to take everything and everyone to pitch it together, and I think that's where One Franklin comes from, because I think we all love this community, we all want everyone in it to do well, and I don't have a child in the school system, but I want the children in my community to get the best that they can get. And so So we work on new growth too, and that's what we've done a lot. I think Patrick Sheridan said that. You know, we were working on changing the zoning bylaws and creating new growth in places where we don't have to create new infrastructure, because the infrastructure costs a lot of money to keep up. So we have to do it in the right way. And I think that's what the next 2 years is going to be like. So get ready. Here we go. Anybody else?
Budget spending.
Budget spending.
One Franklin.
How do we spend how do we...
Jeff, I've stolen the microphone. Did you want to say anything? Okay, you're going to be the silent Cal in this show. That's great. I think some folks arrived recently. We are taking questions from the audience, and we'll take one from Jackie.
Yeah, I have a question. I have a comment and a question, and this is for David Callahan. I'm a retired school teacher, and I started teaching in 1973, okay, almost 30 years. I was a science-specific teacher, and the Ed Reform Bill came through in 1992, and for my specific area, it kind of destroyed education because the state stuck its nose into my classroom and told me, the expert, what to teach, okay? So I did get on the MCAS committee for my specialty. And we were given questions. This is how it worked back then. It's probably was working the same way. We were given questions from college professors that were supposed to be related to the requirements you were supposed to be teaching. Okay, so we went through to make sure they were correct, whether they matched the teaching standards, blah, blah, blah. And then they started testing the questions for 3 or 4 years before they became like official. So I'm sure what they did with my specialty is what they did with everybody. So after we got the results back and we tested an objective, the teachers taught the objective, the students did well on the objective, you know what the powers to be wanted to do? Throw the question out. So my question was, what the hell is this all about? Is this called screw the teacher because the students did well? So yeah, I can see why some teachers may not like the MCAS, especially the elementary grades. It stifles your creativity. You have to teach, spend all your time doing these to whatever standards, and it's a game, I think. Okay, that's the comment. My question to David was, in the last go-around of candidates night, the question was how to improve communications between the school committee and the public. And you said to remove the barrier to meetings, and in removing the barriers, allow people to ask more questions, and things of that nature. My question to you is, how did the agenda change on the school committee where public comments went from the beginning of the meeting to the very end? Who imposed that? Where did it come from? I know the change came when Ahern left and the new superintendent came in.
Were you there at that time? I can't remember if you were part of that.
Yes.
He was.
Yeah, so that was, while Dr. Ahern was still here. This was a decision while Dr. Ahern was still here, and while I was on the chairman of the policy subcommittee. The meetings themselves are business meetings, and so the citizens' comments, opportunities for citizens to kind of engage directly with members of the school committee occur at every single meeting. But in terms of the communication, because you're absolutely right, because that was one of the things in 2021 when running that was talked about. That was one of the questions. I think that was at the senior center, if memory serves me right. And it's something that I've actively been working for the past 2 years on trying to increase communication. One, I'm not shy if you stop me, and I've gotten a lot of questions about the budget while waiting for my coffee at Elizabeth Bagels. And so if you see me around town, always feel free to stop, chat, ask questions. But one of the things was that, because again, and just to stick with the budget, that has been my #1 issue from day one. And back in '21, I was talking about the FY25, FY26 budget concerns that we were going to have. What I discovered was that my comments that I was making during the meetings and some of the conversations I was having wasn't quite kind of punching through to all the audiences. And so just a couple of months ago, started a podcast with Franklin Matters now titled Chalkboard Chats, where I've had my colleague, actually, Mr. McNeil, come on board as well. We continue to open up those lines of communication for as many members of the public to be able to listen to kind of see what happens. So if you weren't able to make the meeting, that you can listen in, keep it to 30 minutes, and we give a little bit more information that kind of happens almost behind the scenes.
You didn't answer the question. The question is, who changed the agenda so that citizen comments are at the end of the meeting, not the start?
Yeah, so that came through policy when I was as the chairman of the policy subcommittee with Dr. Ahern.
Policy decision?
It started through policy and it was voted by, I believe it was all 7 school committee members.
Thank you. Any questions? If not, I'm going to interject one. Okay, I'm going to steal the microphone. When I was a candidate a while back, I mentioned to folks that I thought, and Joel may be able to correct me on this, that about 18 or 20 years ago, the town council was a much more active body. The town manager was the gopher person. The town council set a lot of the determinations of what should happen, right down to nitty-gritty policy. I think it got really messy, and if I remember correctly, the town manager that came in at the time, Jeff Nutting, put a little bit of language into the council's policy saying, "Thou shalt not." You just set general goals and tell me how to run it. And I think in general that's worked well, but I also feel that the responsiveness that maybe the councilors used to have through the voters they heard from has maybe been muted, and now we kind of get this, I hate to call it rubber stamp, that's cruel, but my question, and correct me if I'm wrong in my assumption, Joel, because you know better than I, should or could the council maybe get rid of that provision and become more muscular and more of a policy-making body or policy implementing body, or is that just asking for trouble? You're looking at me with that evil eye, Mel, so I'm going to let you answer that.
You're like, what are you really asking?
Does the council active enough? Could it or should it have more power? I guess is what I'm asking.
Yeah, I don't think you want to give us more power. But, so I think what people see on the surface, right, they see the meetings, most of those items that we discuss come from council members. I meet with Jamie and Tom a lot, especially for the economic development. I get to pick with things that come up. And so I push a lot of these things that maybe some of the staff don't want to do, but I push it because this is what the people in the town tell me they want. So I think maybe we're not as weak as you think we are. Maybe that used to be stronger, but we still have a good say. I mean, we are the town administrator's boss.
We are his boss, but the only way to keep him under control is there has to be 5 counselors that can, I don't want to use the word threaten, but suggest if you don't do this, you will be removed. So the other problem is 4 of us could actually dislike Jamie so much, and he doesn't care because he only needs 5 people in his pocket. So the other 4 mean nothing. This is reality. This is reality. So if you want, you need to vote for like-minded people. If there was 5-4 vote on something, they could get rid of him or push him to do maybe what the people want. I'm saying that is the only way. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. And I don't mean to sound like I'm picking on Jamie at all, because I think he does a pretty good job overall.
Alan, I
Joe.
don't need the mic, but I just to comment on what Brian had just said. You know, we had our first TA in Franklin in 1978.
Yeah.
And he was a good man. And the town went from selectman to council then. and there was growing pains, and there was operational pains, and there was a lot of refinement that came through the years. In the 90s, I remember we had Wolfgang Bauer, and he was a good man. He was a conservative individual in terms of the budgets and so forth. We had a lot of 5-4 votes in the 90s. And as the municipality progresses and things get put in place, there really isn't much to go over, and there's more agreement than there was in the beginning, which would be growing pains. And I'm not talking about housing, I'm talking about growing theory of how the town should be. And now we're sailing a ship that's relatively smooth. I watch the meetings and I see a lot of harmony, which I like, and I see you people getting things done, and I enjoy it. I did my thing. I'm not here because I want to do it again. I do feel, I'm going to make a comment, I don't know how popular this is, but there's a lot of city councils, and we're really not a city, really, but we are by government, that get something every year for the time they put in. And I feel that the time has come that you should be getting at least $100 a meeting, you know, for your time. If you're going to do your homework, because there's a lot of reading. But I like there's a lot of reading, and you all have families, but you all want the best for the community, and I appreciate it. So to go with Jackie's question about citizen comments, I believe the school committee should readjust and have the citizen comment in the beginning of the meeting so that people don't have to spend 2-3 hours waiting to ask a question. So, I mean, because the council has always had it in the beginning. But anyway, that's thank you.
Thank you, Joel. We haven't heard anything from the non-incumbent Chuck Bailey. Do you have any comments or questions for your fellow councilors, future councilors?
Yeah, I actually want to give Brian props for speaking his mind there and his candor, all right? And I was the union president for the Franklin Fire Department during the time when it was 5-4 a lot. I served under Jeff Nutting, and I can go into a whole dialogue about that, the negotiations tables. But anyways, Brian, props to you, brother.
My friends at table number 4 or whatever it is, any comments? Sue? Okay. Anybody else with comments? I know Jackie probably has more comments. She's holding back. You want to say one thing, please?
I actually agree with Mr. DeRico about the comments. I just want to speak my opinion, that's all. I know you changed it, but I mean, we do it at the beginning, and it works that way because people do have to stay right till the end, and a lot of times it could be something I can't explain it. I believe that it should be at the beginning, but maybe.
Oh, I was going to say, I think you mean, but I might be wrong, that people might lose their chance to speak if it's at the end, right?
No, I appreciate that. Well,
yeah.
Is that what you meant? Yes. Okay.
Yeah. You know, and no, thanks for that, for the comments, especially for the way that this is structured. Because I think that this is great. You know, we kind of have an opportunity where we're not just running, into each other 5 minutes before a meeting and then kind of there for hours talking about it. So I welcome it. Thank you very much. One thing too, what actually I always appreciate about the town council is the opening up for conversations right before any vote. Because one of the big things with the citizens' comments is that the way that it's written is that it's for items not on the agenda. And I always appreciated that with, you guys have that opportunity, the same citizens' comments, but also opportunities for that two-way communication right before a vote after deliberation. So thank you very much for all the comments, and especially from the candidates too.
Yeah, I would just say, Sue looks like he has a question. I'm just going to add, the elephant in the room is that some meetings have gotten very raucous, and I don't know if there's any magic bullet for that, but here we're trying to model
conciliatory, collegial conversations. How's that for 3 Cs? It's not easy to do. I think part of it is that people need to feel that they might be heard and not just given lip service. And it's also incumbent on people asking questions to be civil and, you know, maintain a reasonable level of decorum. That's not going to happen here by fiat. I think we should all bear that in mind as we work with each other in all the realms we're in. Sue, did you have a question?
It's not a question, it's a comment.
Okay.
Is the mic working?
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it is.
Sorry.
I have a comment, not a question. We attend the town council meetings almost religiously. And one of the things that we have both observed is that there can be disagreement among the councilors, but that at the end of the day, they all seem to come to some kind of harmony. And one of the things that affords the people listening is a measure of confidence in what the town council is doing. If they come to decisions as a group and then represent those decisions, it makes me feel as if the government of my town is actually working well. And so I think that's an important thing for people to note. They've been working together for quite a while now, and they've been doing a good job, in my opinion. So.
Thank you, Sue. We're getting a belated and welcomed visit from our town council chair, Tom Mercer. I think most of you know him, probably everybody knows him, but Tom, you just want to say a few words about.
Just apologize for being late. I had previously committed to a community meeting with Dean College and the president of Dean College, so I was there at 6 o'clock. I told Alan that I'd get here as soon as I possibly could. I'm looking around and I don't see many people I don't know, but for those of you who don't, how's that? Is that better? Hey, how about that? For those of you who don't know me, my name's Tom Mercer. I am a lifelong Franklin resident. I'm a life member of Franklin Lodge 2136 as well. Yeah, it keeps going on. I think the battery, I'll go battery.
Yeah, I think so.
I've been involved in Franklin politics for probably the last 35 or so years. I was a member of the school committee for 10 years. I chaired the school committee in the 90s for 8 of those 10 years. I've been on the council for a long time, a dozen years, and I've chaired the council for the last 5. I was a member of the Horace Mann School Building Committee. I chaired that building committee. And I finally served on the committee and built a building that I could use. So I chaired the building committee that built the Franklin Senior Center. And I was fortunate enough to be chairman of the Franklin High School Building Committee, the new Franklin High School. Proud to say that all 3 of those projects we were able to bring in under budget. So those were really good things, certainly at the time. So that's a little bit about me.
Okay, this officially doesn't work at all, so I'll hold it. It makes me feel more important. A small crew of people here. I think we've gone through most of the most obvious questions. There may be others, but one of my goals, aside from being civil and self-important and everything else under the sun, is to get people chatting. So if we want to just go and be informal, have some of the food that we have here, have a drink, and talk to some of the people, especially the ones that aren't willing to take the microphone and ask a question, but I bet they have things they want to talk to you about. So how does that sound, folks? Can we move in that direction? Go informally? Thank you so much. Thank you for putting the time in. You know, I disagree with some of you folks. You know who you are, but I also...
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's so awesome that people participate, take the time to do this. It's great. This is, you know, If Norman Rockwell were here, he'd be painting a picture of this great scene of America as it's supposed to work. So thank you, guys.
This program was made possible by your Franklin friends and neighbors. Good folks just like you. Thanks for supporting Franklin TV. And thanks for watching.